Okay, so to start with, and I hope it's in focus, and I'm really sorry about the coughing. I'm still coughing. It's been a couple of months at least now. Somebody at work the other day said it's the 100-day cough. That's what we've dubbed it in this country now. I think 50% of the population in England has got a cough. Nothing else linked to it, just a flipping cough. Anyway, sorry, I'm digressing. Yeah, about here. This is the alpaca locks that I got. I can't remember, I mean it's such a long time ago that I bought them. I think I got them from a farmer in England. I was looking for Surrey alpaca. I'm not sure that this is. And Surrey, I believe, is alpaca's first long hair growth, which is usually the best quality and quite often the longest and softest. But either way, even if this isn't, it's so long and soft, it's gorgeous. But this is how it comes. They're like really soft little, almost dreadlocked bits of alpaca, and I don't know if it'll show up. But as you can see, there are still bits of the field, bits of hay and bits of organic matter still in the wool. And I have to say that when I first got it and started sort of teasing it a little bit, I did actually find a couple of little moth, I don't know if you've ever seen clothes moths, but they have tiny little sort of, it almost looks like a bit of the grass in here. They have tiny little chrysalises where they obviously pupate and turn into a moth. But the worms themselves, the little maggots or whatever they are, actually eat wool. And there was a whole section of this alpaca lock that had been nibbled right in the middle. I've taken a photo, it's on my Flickr somewhere I think. But obviously I had a big chunk that I couldn't use. So I think if I do ever buy alpaca again, I'll go for like processed or at least combed wool, which might be something you'll want to consider if you're thinking about doing a reroute. But anyway, all I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw off one of these tiny little locks to work with. I'll put the other stuff behind here and I'll show you the process that I use if it shows up alright. Now then, I've got an old comb that my local hairdresser gave me. It's an old knackered comb. It was used for dyeing and all sorts of things that she doesn't want anymore. She was just throwing it away. And basically you treat it like your normal hair. So as you can see, there's a bit of, I don't know how well it will show up. The tips are actually tanned from the sun. They're bleached from the sun. So you can tell which end's which, at least. And like normal hair, I just start with the widest edge of the comb. I'm just going to start teasing it out from the bottom of the fur or hair and gradually work my way back up to the base. How well is this showing? Kind of showing alright. It's a shame I can't do it up this way really, but I'll be too worried about pulling it. Now even though it's quite strong, and obviously it's getting a bit of friction there, you've still got to be careful about actually pulling and splitting the hair. Some of the hair will have been sort of knotted and matted and won't be part of the shaft that I'm holding only halfway up at the moment, because you've got to grip it firmly to know that you're actually removing bits of grass or bits of old hair that aren't actually the same length. Like there's a bit of grass coming out here actually. It's working its way down. If I can get it on the comb, I'll show you. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, obviously you get the normal amount of fuzz that comes out with it that isn't up to scratch or isn't the same length, or knotted even. I mean, there's plenty of knots that I've been finding in this. But you want to get rid of that, and you basically want to keep going until you've got nice, smooth, straight fibres. Now I was very worried. I did actually see other people on YouTube and on Flickr and on, you know, Blythe forums and the like, combing in the opposite direction on alpaca and mohair and stuff like that. Now, you know, if you know your beauty regime and stuff, or you're a pet owner, you always know that combing hair backwards is a bad thing and it doesn't work, and all the scales on a hair go downwards instead of upwards and you're going to ruin it. But I have actually discovered, and this is the other end, this is the base, that it doesn't seem to apply to alpaca hair. It actually combs backwards pretty easily. And the reason why I do this is because I'm too worried about wasting too much of the hair. If I was to, for instance, if I was to hold the hair at the base for the whole combing process, I would risk pulling out usable hair, if you see what I mean. It would, if my grip's not strong enough at the top, or I'm pulling the comb too tight, it's actually going to pull out some of the fibres that are good to use. So I find it better to hold it maybe not quite in the middle, maybe slightly nearer to the top, so that you get more of an even comb from both directions. But the idea is basically, and you'll see this when or if you do it yourself, that the knots and the grit and the grass and all the nasty bits, all the sticky bits, whatever the poor animal's been rolling around in or sleeping on, are actually coming free. Right, that's pretty much it. Just get rid of those bits. So that's pretty much it. And as you can see, it's rather than a lock, it's now, well, it just looks like a nice combed bit of fur. And the next bit, which is tricky, if I pull in the actual scalp, show you the size of the holes, if I can. I'm not sure if I can even. Let's see if I can. Okay, excuse that really awful paint job, but there you can see some of the holes. You can even see the size of some of the plugs I've already done. I mean, tiny, 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 excuse my horrible wrinkly hands and nasty nails and everything, but in order to get roots that size, it's quite an operation. I mean, I'm sure there are better ways of doing this, but this is the method I've been using. So I take the base of the alpaca fur, and it's literally a case of trial and error. I mean, I've been learning this as I've been going on. But I would say about that much, however much that is, so many microns of hair. I now need to try and tease that away from the rest of the lock. So if I hold it up a bit and draw that down a little, you might find that some other fibres need to come with it, and then when you pull it, you do get somewhat of a knot. Right, so there's the rest of it, which I like to leave as intact as possible. So here you can see there's quite a weird sort of blob there. Now quite often it's just double backed on itself, and you can smooth it out by teasing it rather than combing it again and losing a clump of hair. You can just tease it out, not even with your nails, just with your fingers, because it is so smooth. And there you've got one nice long straight bit of alpaca hair. Now I did get a clump of fluff that's come away, because as you get to the bottom you're going to find any loose hairs that just keep coming, and you can get rid of those because they'll just clump up in the future in the doll. So once you've done that bit, then it's simply a case of wetting your fingers. I've got a little jar of water over here. Wet your fingers, pull it down the plug like that. You can hear it squeaking probably. I'm sorry if some of this gets off camera, but it's not in my view, it's sort of to the side. And then do the same for the base. I've quite often seen people actually submersing their wool and fibres and stuff in the actual water, but I'm finding this technique works for me at the moment. And then that's it. And again, because you've used water and you've got a bit of grip this time, you're going to get a little bit more fluff on your fingers, and this time because your fingers are wet it'll just roll into a ball and be quite easy to get rid of. Less friction. Okay, and then finally it's just a case of double knotting the end. This is quite a thick plug by my standards at the moment, to be honest, but at least you'll be able to see more what I'm doing. So that's one knot. I like to double knot it because I've discovered that if I leave the plugs for a day before I actually get around to rooting them, at which point I have to re-soak it, the knots can come loose because it is such a smooth fibre. So there we go, there's a double knot, one damp plug, nice and straight. Sometimes if you've pulled it hard, or if you've got loose fibres in there, in fact if I try and do it just to show, I'm going to pull a fibre out that doesn't need to come out. It's not a very good example, but you can see a couple of kinks in it. Now sometimes this will pucker up completely because the fibres will pull against each other and they'll recoil like a spring and they'll make puckers, and the only way I've found to get over that is just to keep smoothing it carefully, lightly with wet fingers until the offending pulled bits of hair actually come out, and then you're left with a nice straight plug again. So there it is, that's one plug done, and then you just leave that somewhere to rest, and then that was one, and then I'll probably get about 25-30 out of just this little bit of fur. So I'll do another one without saying anything quickly. Oops, those two knots missed each other, which is fine. As long as you've got two knots close together, a third knot will draw them in. Not that any of these knots are actually going to come through the holes, because the holes are literally just pinpricks, but I do like to be sure. It just makes it an extra long-winded process, but luckily I've got the patience. A little bit of fluff, get rid of that. And there we go, that's the second one done. But then once you've got them, this is going to be fun to try and film, it's the actual rooting process. So hang on, let me see if I can make sure I can get this in focus. Okay. As you can see, I decided to actually root all the way around the scalp line first. I only decided this sort of halfway through the process, but they're so close together on that bottom root line that I thought I'd get that out of the way first, because then you feel like you've sort of got over a hurdle. But what I'll do is I'll show you how I've been rooting just the general holes anyway. I do have like a gazillion crochet hooks that my mum used to own, and could I find them when I wanted to start this? No, I couldn't. So I went out and bought one, pretty cheap anyway, but it was the smallest crochet hook I could find, a 0.6, which is this crochet hook here. Right, now then, can you see it? Right, there's the actual hook side. Because I've got so many stripes going on in the background, the camera's drawn to the... oh, yay, okay. Oh, there it is. Well, anyway, it's a hook. Even though it's so tiny you can hardly see it, it's still a hook. So, back to this. I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to be able to do this whilst filming. Should be okay. Right, so, on this area here, what I've been doing is working around the centre, so I would do a whole line up the middle. I had started by doing the part line, which is over here, which is that showing up? It kind of is, isn't it? Needs some more light, really. I'm probably in the way of the light. The part line is a very dense couple of rows. This scalp is a side parting, but you root the rows and then you thatch them, one alternately to the opposite side that the holes are on, and then you get a nice closed thatch so you don't see any of the scalp, which is a brilliant idea. But I've moved past there now, obviously, and I'm onto the side. Well, actually this is probably the other side of the head from the side parting. So what I do is I get my very, very tiny crochet hook. Can you see? I force it through one of the holes, but what you've also got to be aware of is not catching any of the previous plugs or hairs when you push it through, because then it's a nightmare to pull back. Now these I've all done, and then I've PVA glued them lightly, all in the same direction, so they all face away from the holes I'm about to work on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to force the crochet hook through this next hole and away from the original hairline. Okay, that's through there. If I can turn it over, I'll show you where it's come through. If you can see, yeah, there it is. And then what I do, usually these have dried by the time I get around to rooting, so I'll re-wet it because the wet hair comes through much easier, and it's much easier to hook with the crochet hook than if it was dry. And then with the knot on one side, I go down to about a quarter, maybe a third of the way down the shaft, and sorry, I'm not in camera, am I? About a third of the way down the shaft from the knot, fold it over my finger like that, hold it in a loop, so that basically if I was to pull on the non-knotted end, as it comes along my finger, the knot hits those two. If that makes sense. So I'll put it down to about a third, looped around my finger, then I get the crochet hook, I push it under that bit of hair and catch it. There it is, and pull it through. Okay, and then you grab it, both loops on this side. Sorry, it's a bit of a mess, isn't it? Grab it and pull it, and as it's pulling through from the other side, as soon as the knot hits my thumb and forefinger, if I pull the knot slightly, just the knotted side, it puckers up the unknotted side, which I then know is the end of the hair, which I can then pull out on its own, like that. I've usually done it a lot sooner than that moment. And you've got one hair that's come through, and then you just pull it tight against the knot, run your fingers down it in case you've broken any. So there's a little chunk of hair will come off, but that's no big deal. It's like having a split end, really. Straighten it out, and there is one rooted hair. So I'll just do it again the second time. I'm going to get rid of these over the side for a change. Alright, get rid of that root.
Get the crochet hook, get in the next hole up, away from the hairs that are already in it, and the one that you've just put in as well. So that's the good thing about having it wet, because on the inside you can smooth it away as you're going. Get the other plug that I've done, wet it again. Squeaky, 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 just wetting the whole shaft because this is a slightly thicker one. Excuse me. There we go. Part way down, over my finger, crochet hook through, catch the hair, pull it, and through. And there's the little stump of it showing through. And just pull the whole thing.
Keep hold of the knot on the inside. This one might work better to show it puckering back actually. One sec, let me clear the other things out of the way. Right, when I just pull on the knot, you can see the side that's pulling and the other side is puckering. So I can just grab the side that's puckering and pull it through. There we go. And then down to the knot and smooth it out. And there we go, that's the second root. And rinse and repeat for the whole of the rest of the head. And that's what I've been doing since just before Christmas in my spare time, and I haven't had that much spare time because it's been Christmas, so you know, and I'm a one job at a time kind of person, so I really don't want to sort of start on much else until I finish this job, and I really didn't realise quite how long it was going to take until I started. So here with me, I'm just going to move the camera. So yes, that's what I've been doing, but as you can see, eventually it's going to be well worth it. I can't wait. As I've been going, obviously I have to clip back the bits that I'm not using, because even just doing that little tutorial was complicated with all the rest of the hair, but I really hope it shows. And I hope you enjoyed it, even if you're not into Blythes, even as an idea for maybe rooting your own dolls or other dolls or Monster High dolls, or even trying it on, I don't know, a silicone wig cap or something. You know, any idea it might be useful for. I hope it was informative. Thank you for watching, and Happy New Year, of course. Commissions will be up and running just as soon as I finish this, and I've got some better daylight, but at the moment we've just been forecast with about 3 weeks of snow, so I was told. I'll believe it when I see it, but you know, light's not great. So yeah, thanks for watching and see you soon. Bye.